Ladies and gentlemen, the king has arrived. What is up, Matt to the Maxers? It is your host, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we dive into this unboxing, make sure to like this video, hit subscribe, and make sure to turn that notification bell. That way you don't miss any new content from Matt to the Max, like some awesome unboxings. Now this one is very special and very near and dear to me. And before we get into this wrestler, I will say, you know, when you see people on TV or you hear their voice on Monday Night Raw, and then you get this real moment of actually working with them, it is so cool, and this was definitely an unexpected moment. So now, without any further ado, let's get into this unboxing. It is the one and only Jerry the King Lawler. This is his Elite Series 82. And I picked this up in Indianapolis at the Toy Pit. So cool. This is, I would say, his more classic design. I will get into it in just a little bit. But some backstory and something very cool that actually happened to me last year back in August. I had the opportunity to work with Jerry the King Lawler for the South Bend Cubs Pro Wrestling Night. I was his handler for that game, and that's something where you receive the text saying, hey, do you want to work with Jerry the King Lawler? And immediately you go, absolutely, that is something I would love to do. And it was such an honor. Big thank you to Chris Hagstrom-Jones and the South Bend Cubs for that opportunity. It was incredible. Jerry the King Lawler is so cool to work with, and just throughout the whole night, he was just so kind and nice, and everyone who stopped and talked to him and wanted an autograph or two at times, he was so accommodating. And actually, one of my favorite moments was someone gave him a Funko Pop to sign, and the person didn't want it personalized, they just wanted it signed. And so he drew a little thought bubble and he put the word puppies because, you know, obviously that was his catchphrase, especially in the 90s.
Beautiful diva would come walking out and say, hey, JR, look, puppies.
But that was just so funny, and he's actually an incredible artist. I know he's had some health issues, but it was still so cool to see him, and you see those moments like that, and you go, yeah, that's Jerry the King Lawler, all right. And something else that was so cool and just shows how much that he likes wrestling, and I know I've talked to other people about Jerry the King Lawler. If you saw my Doug Masters interview talking about Jerry the King Lawler, he still is a fan of wrestling. It's just so cool because they had some matches at the end of the night after the baseball game, and Jerry Lawler actually wanted to stay and watch these matches. He didn't just fly in, do the appearance, say the line, and leave. He actually wanted to be there. He had fun, the best I can tell. He wanted to be there until the end, and that was just so cool. So it was an honor to meet and actually work with Jerry the King Lawler. As I said, I know he's had some health issues lately, but I just want to say that was something that I never thought would happen, and it was just incredible. I had the best time. That is honestly, like, the super cool radio stuff and all the interviews I do, that's so cool, and I love doing that stuff. But it's like those moments where it's unexpected. You know, there is part of my job, and like you get to work with Jerry the King Lawler. I don't know, it's just cool, and I just got to say again a big thank you to the South Bend Cubs for everything, especially Chris Hagstrom-Jones for making that happen and for choosing me to work with Jerry the King Lawler, the King of Memphis, and we had a great time. So now, let's get into the packaging of a Series 82 of the Elite Style WWE Mattel. So as you can see, big window frame with that classic Jerry the King Lawler kind of smug looking pose, I would say. And you can see him and all his royalty. And of course you have on the back, from Memphis, Tennessee, the King of Memphis, AWA World Champion, WWE Hall of Fame inductee. And a little blurb on the back. Throughout the new generation, the King provided color commentary on Raw and clashed with legends like Bret the Hitman Hart and Rowdy Roddy Piper inside the ring. Who was included in this series? We got Keith Lee, not with the company anymore, Finn Balor, John Morrison, also not with the company, Alexa Bliss, Rob Gronkowski, and of course, Jerry the King Lawler. Which, by the way, I don't know if Rob Gronk is in the Hall of Fame, but I think he definitely should be. And this was released, I believe, in, yes, 2020, during that time. But packaging-wise, I think it looks great. I like the black, white, and red. I think it really makes it stand out. I actually like this packaging. I know there's some elite packaging that they've done, and kind of the more newer ones as well, where I'm not as big of a fan. They look a little too boxy. This one actually looks quite nice and actually looks like a proper packaging. So I'm a big fan of that. So now, of course, it's certified authentic. You don't want any of the knockoff stuff. But now, let's get into the unboxing. And, of course, got my scissors, trusty scissors. The box has got a few dings on it. Again, I did buy this secondhand. So, packaging I'm not as concerned about. That's kind of why I bought it, is I knew I was going to open it. They always put these little plastic ties in, like the plastic container isn't going to hold it, so they have to put these in, and these are just the worst things in the world. They're not in a good spot, and they always are hard to get out. Like this one, I don't want to cut his cape, so I got to be careful. There we go. And I will say, just getting him out of the box is, they kind of like molded his cape, like it's partially in here because there's the plastic on his shoulders and then the cape kind of falls through there. I guess, you know, for packaging wise, I guess you had to do that, but for getting it out of the box, that ain't easy. You know, I always check the joints and everything because I know this, you know, this is a 6-year-old action figure at this point, has not been out of the box. So I always decide to check that. See, I dropped his crown too, by the way. That was great. All right, Jerry the King Lawler. This is his SummerSlam in 1993 attire when he managed Doink, the Jester, and then Doink took on Bret Hart, and Bret Hart beat Doink because I think Jerry Lawler interfered, and then the commissioner, Jack Tunney, came out and said now it's going to be Jerry Lawler versus Bret Hart, and then Bret Hart beat Jerry Lawler, but he wouldn't let go of the sharpshooter. It was kind of a whole mess, and then Jerry King Lawler just won by disqualification at that point, even though he technically lost the match. Yeah, I don't know, kind of some shenanigans with all of that. But I love the attire. To me, I know they've made a few other Jerry the King Lawler of like his 90s. I think they made a 2011 one. But to me, when I think Jerry the King Lawler, I think this attire. The blue and white attire. I'm going to see if I can, I don't know if I'm going to take this cape off, because it seems to be like stringed in. And I don't know if I want to take that off, unfortunately. Because it's probably not going to go back on the way I want it to. So we're going to keep it on. This blue and white attire, I think, looks fantastic. This really looks like Jerry the King Lawler. I think it's a very, very well done. A younger Jerry the King Lawler in the early 90s. Joints feel great, actually. I mean, I've gotten some newer elites, and like the joints are either stiff or they're just bad. You know, some, I would say maybe like 1 out of every 10, there's usually a bad one, which, I mean, that's not terrible. As you saw me checking the legs already, legs work. Ankles, a little stiff. Yeah, ankles are stiff. But that's not a big deal breaker for me. Everything else works really well. And as you see, standing up really well. Some of my other ones don't. Like that's, you know, Sting kept falling over. But dive more into the attire. I love the detailed artwork. White tights with these gray royalty, like insignias, I guess you would call them, or something like that. I think that is really cool. Great detail in this. The cape itself, if you look on the back, the cape itself looks fantastic with some great details on there as well. I really like this one. Again, it reminds me of that classic Jerry the King Lawler attire. Yeah, I remember, you remember him in that blue and white. Yeah, I was watching on one of the Undertaker DVDs. It was him versus Jerry Lawler, I think in a casket match, if I remember correctly. And Jerry Lawler's, I believe, wearing the same attire. And it just looks so cool. I mean, he's the King of Memphis for a reason, and he's the king for a reason, and he dresses very much like one. Let me get into the accessories here real quick. He does have a blue, gold, and white with little red accents or jewels. And he's got 2 fists as well if he ever needs to give a nice right hand to somebody. I think he could still go even nowadays. I think he could throw a good fist nowadays still. I definitely wouldn't mess with him. Overall, I would say for Jerry the King Lawler, Elite Series 82, I would give 9 out of 10. And mostly just because for the ankles being stiff, it is a little bit hard to pose. But overall, the attire looks extremely accurate. The details in the cape and the tights look phenomenal. It looks like him. It really does. It just a little, and the only con, I think the crown could have been a little bit better. There are some smudge marks. The red jewels area could have been a little better than that, I would say. But that's more nitpicking. Like, the figure itself looks fantastic. The cape looks fantastic. This is Jerry the King Lawler. I definitely highly recommend this one. If you can find it like I did, I would definitely recommend picking it up and adding it to your collection. And I just want to show as well. So this is another Elite. This is the Monday Night Wars one that I got. It does have a black smudge on his face, unfortunately. But the crown looks more detailed in this one. And I would say that's like the big thing. The figure itself, quality control issues, knees are very stiff. So I wouldn't say this is like the best one. Definitely not my favorite. I would say definitely between these 2 figures that I have of Jerry the King Lawler, if I could take like the same crown and make it blue and put it on there, I think that would make it a 10 out of 10. But the figure itself, these older Elites, like I know some of them, like the single jointed ones, they're not always the best. But I would say like this era of the Elites, I haven't really had a problem with. Very few quality control. The newer Elites, I definitely had a lot more issues of them just not being very good. I always prefer older Elites anyway. I like the packaging on them anyway. And sometimes Monday Night Wars one, I think they're just pumping them out just to get the Build-A-Figures and stuff. So, but anyway, this Jerry the King Lawler looks amazing. And again, I want to learn more about Jerry the King Lawler just because I had the opportunity to work with him. Obviously, I knew him from watching Monday Night Raw, and seeing him color commentate and that cleverness was really on display throughout the whole thing. And that's why, like, when I interviewed Doug Masters, I really wanted to learn more about Jerry Lawler since he worked with him in the USWA. And I even interviewed Paul McCoy from 12 Stones. They had a WWE connection, and he was telling me about how Jerry Lawler was actually on a softball team as well. So I think that was really cool. So I just really like learning about Jerry the King Lawler, since you see the persona on WWE, but he is like one of the nicest people that I've had the opportunity to work with and handle. It was just so cool, and to be able to do that, obviously it makes a good story, but like it means a lot to me as well, just personally. And I'm a huge fan of Jerry the King Lawler because of it, because I had such a pleasant interaction with him. Thank you again to the South Bend Cubs and Chris Hagstrom-Jones for the opportunity. And thank you guys for watching this unboxing, something that meant a lot to me. I was really looking for a Jerry the King Lawler action figure, one that I really wanted to unbox that really reminded me of the King, Jerry the King Lawler. I know this one, again, is nice, but it just doesn't have that same royalty to it. Like, this is definitely a more commentator role, and it looks fine. I just wish the quality control was a little bit better. This Supreme, if you don't have this in your collection, I definitely highly recommend you get it. I know they're a little bit hard to find, or they are a little bit more expensive, but if you can definitely find one, it's not terribly unreasonable. I think I paid $30 for this one. Not terrible at all, especially for a good figure like this one. But thank you guys so much. If you've had the opportunity to meet Jerry the King Lawler, or you've watched him on TV, let me know what your favorite moment is from his time in wrestling. And if you met him, let me know your interaction with him in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching Matt to the Max, and I'll catch you in the next video.